You're listening to LSU Daily with Matt Musso, your home for all things LSU sports.
Now they'll motion Lacey back to the right side of the formation. Here's the snap. Pump fake by Nussmeier. He's going to throw towards the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Fighting Tigers! Tigers win! Tigers win! In the right corner of the end zone. 25-yard strike to Kyron Lacey. And the Tigers indeed walk it off here at Tiger Stadium with a 29-26 victory.
That's how it sounded on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, on the call as LSU capped off a euphoric night in Tiger Stadium, celebrating 100 years with a walk-off upset victory in overtime over the Ole Miss Rebels. Welcome in to another edition of LSU Daily. We are off and running and couldn't be more thrilled to have you with me here today. What a friggin' Saturday night, y'all. Oh, man, that game, so many twists, so many turns. All of it was spent on the edge of your seat, and if it wasn't, it's because you weren't sitting down at all. It's because you were standing. That game was just tension-packed from the moment they kicked the ball off. That game was tension-packed from the moment the band hit the 4 notes at the 50-yard line. That game was everything that Saturday night in Death Valley should be. And we'll talk about that atmosphere as well, because I was lucky enough to be in attendance for it, not in a working capacity, in a fan capacity for the first time in a very long time. And it was awesome. So, I mean, I definitely want to talk about the atmosphere as well, but we got to talk about the game itself, because what you saw was LSU's best defensive performance easily of this season, but probably since 2022. You'd probably have to go back to 2022 to find a game where you felt actually that good about the LSU defense, where sure, earlier or at some points in 23, you had nice performances against bad teams like Auburn. LSU held Auburn under 20 points last year. Auburn stunk on offense. Ole Miss doesn't stink on offense. This isn't the best Ole Miss offense they've ever had, but it's still against a play caller like Lane Kiffin. It was very reminiscent of what you were able to do against a play caller like Lincoln Riley. And we're going to talk plenty about Whit Weeks. We're going to talk plenty about Braden Swinson. We'll talk plenty about Major Burns. All those guys had massive, massive games for LSU on the defensive side of the ball. And that's not even all of them. Zy Alexander, Ashton Stamps. The defense played their best game of the year, and I would argue the best game an LSU defense has played since 2022. On offense, a lot was made of the quote-unquote bad game that Garrett Nussmeier had up until the final minute and a half of regulation, and then obviously the throw to Lacey in overtime, which you just heard to lead the show. And I'm here to tell you this, and we'll go through the sequences in the game as to why I believe this. I don't think Garrett Nussmeier had a bad game. I don't think Garrett Nussmeier was just so atrocious that oh, God, what is this guy doing out there? I think Garrett wasn't as efficient as he has been. He was also asked to throw the football 51 times in the game. You throw the ball 51 times in a game, there's going to be a few that you want back, and it's really hard to be efficient throwing it 51 times in a game. He did make some really bad decisions. Both interceptions weren't great. The second one was real bad. So, you had that. But in the midst of that, you also had a couple drops. You had an illegal touching penalty, and then another, actually, I think you had 2 illegal touching penalties on you. So there's a lot mixed in there. What Garrett Nussmeier did was make huge throw after huge throw when you really needed him to do that. And it wasn't just at the end of the game. At the end of the first half, Garrett Nussmeier really locked in and got LSU back into the game when the defense finally broke a little. Not a lot. A little. But the moment that game was starting to kind of potentially creep away from LSU, Garrett Nussmeier locked in, said, and drove the team right down the field. And like I said, we'll get into it. So my thing that I really loved from Garrett Nussmeier on Saturday night was the short memory. Because, yes, there were problems. There were things that went wrong for him, but he was able to flush all of them immediately and perform at the level that we've seen him perform at consistently throughout this season when LSU needed it most. And that is going to be huge for him going forward. Brian Kelly, after the game, called it a growth game for Garrett Nussmeier. And I couldn't agree more. Y'all smash the like. We're about to get into it. Share, subscribe. Please subscribe. We're about to have a lot of fun on LSU Daily as we go forward into this season now that LSU is standing at 5-1 and 2-0 in the Southeastern Conference with plenty to play for in the back half of the season. So get subscribed, share, tell your friends if you have not already, and of course follow me on social media at Musso Matthew on Twitter or X. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram at Matthew Musso1. All of that greatly, greatly appreciated. All right, y'all, let's dive into the game a little bit. Of course, it was a scoreless first quarter between LSU and Ole Miss, but that does not do it justice. The Tigers, they get the ball first because, of course, they do. And, boy, did it almost bite you in the ass. But it didn't. We'll get to that because the end of half sequence, I have so many thoughts on that. But LSU takes the ball first. They win the toss, take the ball first. You start with a 7-yard run by Josh Williams. Love it. You have 2 incomplete passes. The one on third down to Mason Taylor looked catchable from my vantage point. It wasn't, and LSU goes 3 and out. And right there at that moment, it's like, okay, man, if you could have went and punched it in on your opening drive, the place just really goes berserk. But you didn't. Now let's see what the defense can do. And what a response from the LSU defense. But there was something else that happened on that drive that helped set a tone. I mean, Henry Parrish runs for no gain on first down. On 2nd and 10, you have a false start. So immediately, you know the crowd is impacting the game. Just right off from jump. Ole Miss, in their effort to take the crowd out of it immediately after seeing it impact, tries to take the deep shot to Trey Harris. He was open. Boy, he looked real healthy in that first half. He was open, but they couldn't connect. Dart and Harris couldn't connect. You get then to 3rd down and 15. Ole Miss is backed up on inside their own 20 against the student section. Place is going berserk, and they just hand the ball off to Henry Parrish. 5 yards, they punt it away. LSU would go backwards on their next drive, and then you turn it back over to Ole Miss. And this is when the Rebels finally kind of started to put the drive together a little bit. And they marched 65 yards on 11 plays. But ultimately, the LSU defense, aided by a holding penalty on 3rd down and 6 at the LSU 16, is able to hold Ole Miss to a field goal attempt that was missed. So again, that to me is pressure moment mounting. Caden Davis isn't able to hit the 32-yard chip shot. LSU, you live to fight another day. The next drive is where you had the interception. The first interception by Garrett Nussmeier came on 2nd down and 9. In real time watching it, looked like it was tipped up in the air. Going back and watching it, it just wasn't a very good decision. We're going to make a lot of the offensive line keeping Garrett Nussmeier clean in this game, and they were awesome. Ole Miss led the nation in sacks, and LSU did not surrender one. That's huge. There was pressure on Garrett Nussmeier, though, throughout that game, and this play was one of those, and this came up the middle, and it was honestly a spot where Nussmeier should have probably just taken the sack. Like, as much as we make of them not allowing one, this probably would have been the better option. He tried to just throw the ball away. When he does, he kind of sidearms it. It hit off of Will Campbell, bounced into the air, and then the Ole Miss player, DB, kind of tipped it forward to his teammate for the interception. Now, in the moment, that stinks. But here's the moment in the game also where I knew the LSU defense just wasn't going to be denied tonight. And that was when they stopped Ole Miss on downs there. 2-yard run for Henry Parrish, 2-yard run for Henry Parrish, 5-yard run for Henry Parrish. Your 4th down and 1 at the LSU 4. You knew after the kicker missed a 32-yard chip shot, there was no way in hell, especially after sudden change, that Lane Kiffin wasn't going for it there. On the 3rd down play, it was a direct snap to Parrish. He got the 5 yards. On the 4th down play, again, another direct snap and just a massive stop. This was Braden Swinson around the right end, just leveling Parrish in the backfield for the stop, and again, energizing Tiger Stadium. LSU's able to hold the ball a little bit on their next drive for the punt. And then Ole Miss, that's when they got on the board with the field goal. LSU turns it over on downs after that. And then you had the 50-yard touchdown run by Ulysses Bentley to put Ole Miss up 10-0. And this is now you're into the second quarter, and that play, the 4th down and 1, the 50-yarder by Bentley, that was really the first time LSU missed tackles all night, and it was a bummer to see, but it did happen, and he houses it. But then here's Garrett Nussmeier. You're down 10-0 in your building. The air is starting to get out of there a little bit, and Garrett Nussmeier turns back into Garrett Nussmeier. The 3rd down and 13. Nuss completes a beautiful throw. He just couldn't be any more on target to Xavier Thomas for 21 yards to extend the drive. The very next play, 1st down and 10, he hits Kyron Lacey on a deep out, 28 yards to the Ole Miss 12, 1st down, put it right on his face mask, and the coverage wasn't terrible. And then Garrett Nussmeier again to Trey-Des Green off of an RPO, 12 yards for the touchdown, and bang, LSU's on the board. Now, Ole Miss would respond. They'd score their touchdown, make it 17-7. But LSU again would move down the field, and they were able to kick a field goal. But again, it was paced by some pretty big completions by Garrett Nussmeier, 15 yards on 2nd and 10 to Xavier Thomas, 12 yards on 1st and 10 to Aaron Anderson, 15 more yards on 1st and 10 to Kyron Lacey. All right, you get the picture there. And at that point, it's 17-10, and Ole Miss gets the football back with 34 seconds to play in the game. And old Lane Kiffin just couldn't help himself. He just couldn't help himself. There's a stat that we talked about plenty the week leading up to this game. And it was that Lane Kiffin has never, not once, beaten a ranked team on the road as head coach. And you want to know why? Because of end-of-half sequences just like this one. Y'all, Ole Miss is up 7 points on the road as the favorite, mind you, in one of the most hostile environments ever. You have 34 seconds to go in the half, and you get the football to start the second half. There's a lot that can go wrong right there. Probably best to just take it into the locker room. Come back out with your 7-point lead, make some adjustments, see if you can't go down and make it a 2-score lead right out of the break. Nope. Lane Kiffin's going to go for it because that's what Lane Kiffin does. And Ole Miss fumbles the football. And LSU gets it. And Ole Miss spots LSU 3 points right at the end of the half. 17-13. It's pretty important 3 points when you look at the final score and your margins, 3 points. It's not new. It's just the latest coaching gaffe like that for Lane Kiffin. But it's who he is. He's the ultra-aggressive coach. You live by that sword, you die by that sword. And it really hurt Ole Miss right there. Like that was the beginning of the end, kind of, for the Rebels. Up to that point, it felt like they kind of still had LSU at arm's length a little bit, even though you were starting to see Nuss make big throws. It felt like they kind of had LSU at arm's length at that point. Then LSU takes the momentum into the locker room. And you come out and you force a punt to start the second half. Unfortunately, LSU missed the field goal. Then the two teams would trade field goals. So you go 20-13, 20-16. And then when Ole Miss seems like they're driving down the field, third quarter ends, you go into the fourth quarter in a one-possession game. You're starting it with 3rd and 15, and Jackson Dart hits a big pass to Caden Lee for 18 yards. And Ole Miss continues their march down the field. They get to the LSU 20, but you have a holding penalty that backs them up to the LSU 30. Then you have the delay a game penalty that backs them up further. Again, crowd just getting into it at that moment. And then Jackson Dart throws an inexplicable pass into about, 5 LSU shirts. It was Zy Alexander who skied, came down with it in the end zone for the interception. Massive play. Now, what was disappointing is LSU gave it right back on the next one. Nussmeier was under pressure, made another bad decision, and just launches it up. It's woefully underthrown, and it's picked off. But yet again, your LSU defense comes up with a massive stop. It is punctuated with a sack for 9 yards by Braden Swinson, who, oh, by the way, is now on pace to break Arden Key's sack record with 7. He's got 7 this season. Arden Key's record is 12. He is well on pace to do that. Awesome night for Braden Swinson, and just a huge moment in the game. Unfortunately, the LSU offense stalls out again. You couldn't really do much with it there. You had a big play to Kyron Lacey, which looked like it was going to be a third down conversion. But you had a holding penalty on Emory Jones, bring that back. So now it's 3rd and 13. Then you saw Garrett Nussmeier take off and run for 14 yards and a first down. Loved that. But ultimately, you couldn't get enough going there. But your defense would bow its neck once again and hold Ole Miss to a field goal. And then that's when LSU went on their drive. And this drive, it was awesome. The 4th and 6 throw to Mason Taylor for 14 yards to convert LSU's first possession to take you to the 2-minute warning. Beautiful. Just up until that point, Mason Taylor had 2 catches in the game for 0 yards. He was a non-factor. He was anything but on this drive, and really served as that security blanket for Garrett Nussmeier. Because after you convert that 4th down, you go incomplete pass to Kyron Lacey, incomplete pass to Aaron Anderson, 3rd and 10, Mason Taylor for 19 yards. That's the one where everyone thought he had scored, but he was correctly called down. And actually, thank goodness for LSU, you would have left a lot of time. Like in hindsight, you would have left Ole Miss with about 1:49 and 2 timeouts to go kick a field goal at that point. Incomplete to Lacey, 2nd down and 10 more yards to Mason Taylor. After 2 incomplete passes, a Josh Williams run and a timeout, that's when Garrett Nussmeier made one of the best Sunday throws you'll ever see to Aaron Anderson on 4th down and 5. Game on the line, 23 yards and a touchdown. And LSU is able to tie the game with the extra point. Ole Miss still has their chance to go down and try to get an opportunity. But ultimately, it's not there. And on 1st down and 10 from the Ole Miss 47, you're not going to kick a field goal. You have your one throw. And Whit Weeks, who was all over the field all night long, comes up with the sack to send the game to overtime. Just a huge, huge play. In overtime, Whit Weeks wasn't done with the huge plays. But Ole Miss immediately started going backwards. They stuff Ulysses Bentley for a loss of 2 yards on his run. But there was also a holding penalty for Ole Miss, which backed him up from the 25 to the 35, 1st and 20. Then out of a timeout, you have a false start penalty, 2nd and 20. Jackson Dart with the incomplete pass. That's the one that was broken up by Whit Weeks, almost intercepted. And then the 3rd and 25, Zy Alexander almost came down with his 2nd interception of the game, but ultimately that fell incomplete. Caden Davis, to his credit, after missing the 32-yard field goal, was awesome the rest of the night for Ole Miss, and he nails that 57-yarder. And then you heard it to open the show. Just an awesome throw and catch from Nuss to Lacey, and LSU gets the win. Some individual performances. Kind of already gave my spiel on Garrett Nussmeier, but let's talk about Whit Weeks. Sitting there in the stadium, wasn't aware Whit Weeks had 18 tackles. Knew he had a great game because you heard his name over the PA an awful lot. Right? And you saw 40 out there flash and make play after play after play. But it's not just the fact that he had 18 tackles. And 18 tackles is absurd. But it's the plays that he made down the stretch in the game. And we just talked about that. The sack to end regulation. The pass breakup in overtime on 2nd down and long, where if the ball's caught, it's a 1st down inside the LSU 10-yard line. It's him rising to the occasion and making those can't miss plays. Like you can't help but notice him do it. And it's something Whit Weeks has done plenty throughout the season. But it was on full display Saturday in Tiger Stadium. That guy, he is one of the best linebackers in the Southeastern Conference. He's on the short list for sure. And he is your best linebacker. And look, I wondered, and this was before the South Alabama game, was Brian Kelly had said, Whit Weeks in space equals Harold Perkins. I said, man, that's a mouthful. He damn sure did on Saturday night. Like, that was on full display. Whit Weeks was awesome, y'all. He was awesome. He's got another year at LSU, but he made himself money Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. Whit Weeks was incredible. Braden Swinson, yet again. Swinson, yet again, awesome. You're looking at 8 tackles, 2 more sacks, 2.5 TFLs. He was great. Like I said, on pace. Now with 7 sacks, on pace to break Arden Key's record. The jump he's been able to take has been incredible. You just see the difference in the technique. He's always had the speed. Like last year, you saw him impact the passer, pressure the passer, but you didn't see him get home. He had 2 sacks last year. That's where you see the jump in technique, in ability, and that it's a huge credit to Kevin Peoples because he's turned Braden Swinson into one of the most feared pass rushers in the nation. I thought Major Burns played one of his best games in an LSU uniform. Maybe his best game. 2.5 TFLs, 1.5 sacked, forced fumbles. He was all over the field from his star position when LSU really needed it most from him. And even on the touchdown he gave up, he was in good coverage. Trey Harris is just a freak show of a receiver and made an unbelievable catch. I'm still not sure how he caught it. Zy Alexander got the game ball. He had the interception. He also had another pass defensed. And that was the one that he almost picked off for a second. They put Zy Alexander on an island, and he responded against a really, really good Ole Miss wide receiving corps. LSU as a whole had 6 sacks, and 6 different players had at least half a sack. LSU defended, had 11 passes defensed. 6 of them came from your DBs. Ashton Stamps had 3 by himself. He was awesome, too. And the tackling in space was fantastic the majority of the night for LSU. They were awesome. Awesome on defense. And I'll tell you this. We all thought LSU would have to play their best game to beat Ole Miss. And I don't think LSU played their best game of the year yet. Still, I think they played a darn good one. I think LSU played their best defensive game. I don't think they played their best offensive game. So it still hadn't come totally together. But you were able to get the win. And you have a lot of meaningful football ahead of you right now. And I think you still have your best game in the tank. I think this team's going to continue to get better. We said this game would show you, are they closer to 8-4 or 10-2, 9-3? They're definitely closer to 10-2, 9-3, especially with that win. That's how they've gotten there the last 2 years after dropping the opener. They won one that maybe they weren't supposed to. As a 3.5-point home underdog, you weren't supposed to win. But you did. And that is a moment can completely turn the season. We're going to look back at October 12th as the moment that does that if LSU goes on and accomplishes some pretty big, lofty goals this season. Just an awesome game, an awesome performance by your defense, and Garrett Nussmeier stepping up biggest when you need him at the end of the first half and at the end of the ball game, having the short memory. It's what you want out of your leader. It's what you want out of the quarterback. Same thing for a guy like Mason Taylor, y'all. Told you, he had 2 catches for no yards until that final drive. He got 3 catches on that final drive. He was huge. Short memory was massive for the LSU offense. Just an awesome game all around. Quickly on the atmosphere. I hadn't been in Tiger Stadium as a fan since 2019. It's been a long time. And that was a really awesome welcome back. That place was incredible. The improvements they've done to the stadium, incredible. The light show was great. The light-up bracelets were a great touch. Set It Off was incredible with the damn near the entire stadium rapping along with Boosie. Calling Baton Rouge, start the 4th quarter was electric. When they put Paul Skeens up there, electric. Y'all, when Kyron Lacey caught the touchdown pass, I was in the south end zone. When Kyron Lacey caught the touchdown pass, it was so loud, I didn't even hear the fireworks they shot off. And they shoot them off in the south end zone. I I was not aware they did that, that they shot off fireworks until I went back and watched the TV copy after the game of the final play. It was that loud, that shaking, that I didn't hear fireworks right above me. Everyone talks about Saturday night in Death Valley, and they talk about it being such a tough place to play. And they talk about that because the crowd noise is so intense when you're on the field, right, and it's in-game. And it was. It was on Saturday night. But the thing that really makes Saturday night in Death Valley special is when the energy is just constant. And that's what it was. That's what it was Saturday night. The energy was constant throughout timeouts. There was music. There was cheering. There was singing along, chants. There's just everything all throughout the night. Not just the 60-minute game clock. That's what separates it. That's what makes it different. And in a game where it feels like it could change and falter at any given moment for the entirety, that type of energy is just so massive. LSU nailed this. They couldn't have planned it any better with the 100-year anniversary being on that night. It's real easy, y'all, to know you have 100 years coming up and see Alabama on the schedule and go, that could be the game to do it. That's an easy thought. Or you could do what LSU did. You can pair it up with homecoming, where you know you're going to have an influx of people. You can pair it up with homecoming in a game against a really top-flight opponent who's going to be in the top 10 when they come in here, and there's going to be a lot on the line early in the season. And you can bring back legends into the stadium. Hundreds of them. You did that, and it would have been damn hard for them to not perform. And they performed. And I started off by saying it was euphoric. It was euphoric. That was just an awesome night. It was an all-time night in Tiger Stadium. And there's been a lot of them, but that's another one. There's been a lot of them against that team, but that was another one. That I've been to a lot of awesome games. Been fortunate enough growing up here to go to a lot of awesome games and see a lot of awesome moments. Not all of them went your way. That one did. But I'll tell you right now, that vaults up easily into the top 5 for me in moments that I've witnessed in Tiger Stadium. Awesome night, Saturday night. Fired up that I got to be a part of it and not in a working capacity. That I got to just go there, enjoy it, and really immerse myself in the atmosphere. Because it's different when you're up in a press box. It's a lot different. It actually stinks, but it's a lot different. Saturday night, I got to be a fan. And, man, it was worth every damn minute of the 4 hours and 16 minutes that we all spent together in Tiger Stadium. On to the next. That's Fayetteville, Arkansas. We're going to talk a lot about that because, that one's never easy. But we got plenty of time to do that. Bask in this one a little bit more. Tigers win 29-26. Be here next time on LSU Daily.